Hi guys, I'm Gaurav Kumar. I'm a chemical engineer. Presently, I'm preparing for UPSC Civil Service examination. Today, I'm going to explain all about GST. GST was basically passed on 3rd August 2016, and it was a very big reform taken in Indian economy. It's the biggest tax reform taken in the Indian economy, and after 1991, it is said to be the biggest reform which is going to transform India in the long run. So basically, what is GST? I will be explaining GST, but before that, we need to know that the CBEC, that is the Central Board of Excise and Custom Duty, which uh, that collects tax in India, have taken a lot of steps in the past too for making India a great nation. Like the past making initiatives can be like Make in India or preparing steps towards implementation of the GST and ease of doing business and the dispute resolution. That is the biggest step it have taken. There were cases like the Vodafone case, and there were many more companies where we had some tax disputes with the other nations and the companies, which was a very saving for our country, that our country is not very nicely uh, means litigation was not nice, basically what I want to say. And so the government passed GST bill, that is the it was a 22nd amendment in the constitution, that's the GST. And it's a very big tax reform. So I would like to explain that why GST. So why it was basically enacted in our country. So basically GST is what goods and services, everybody knows that. But the basic point behind it that in India the taxation system is very much complicated. Constitution has given right to the center, state, and even the local bodies to apply taxes. Uh, so so basically what we see is that the effective tax is nearly 27 to 30%, in India. So many of the manufacturing companies prefer to go to other countries for the manufacturing process, because in India it is so much complex that they have to maintain other uh, employees also to calculate the taxes and understand the Indian tax structure, because it was so much complicated. Like government had CVAT, that is the central VAT, states has VAT, and the interstate duty. For example, I will give you an example to understand it. For example, in Uttar Pradesh government told that the Flipkart is selling goods in their state, they will have to pay 5% extra tax because they were selling in their state. So how can you maintain that much records, that is for this state you have to pay this much tax, for this state you have to pay this much tax. So it was very much complicated structure, and the investors and the traders and the companies were so much willing and criticizing the government to have a good tax reform, so that ease of doing business in India was simple. But even GST was pending from 11 years in the parliament, and a lot of debates were going on, and a lot of reforms was also done in GST. And the one more thing was uh, that the states, India is a federal country, so you have to check about the federation also, because the states had their rights to right to collect taxes, and the central government can't take away the rights from the states. And the constitution have given this right to local bodies also. So it was a very complex phenomena, and to for the reforms, and for the states and the center to come on the same point. So GST council was made. There were a lot of discussion, and finally it was passed on 3rd August 2016. So it was a big day for our country, because most of the European nations, like France was the first one to pass, GST, or you can say that the centralized VAT system in which you have a common tax structure for the whole country. And like India, in which it is decided that we will have a two structure, that is the central GST and the state GST. And they will be given autonomy, or uh, it is being debated that the state GST rates must be same, because otherwise there will not be any point of implementing GST. Finally, that is the last time news came into the media. The slabs were also decided, like 0% for the basic things, like food grains, and like 5% for the basic things, and 12%, and I think 18% was the basic rate, and 28% for the luxury goods items. So now see one more cause which led to the implementation of GST, and asking such a structure was the interstate taxes also, because from it was said that exporters find it easy to export to other countries than to trade in India, because if you are exporting or trading from Tamil Nadu, that is the south of the India, to the north of India, like Delhi or something like that, Delhi, Punjab, then you have to pass from lot of states, almost I think 10 states, and all states will have boundaries. There will be check post, and if your items are breakable, or like vegetables or fruits or something like that, then it has a very very bad impacts on the traders. There there you have to wait almost 5 or 6 hours at the borders, and you will have 10 borders also in from South India to North India. So it was having a very very cascading effects also. And that is the one more that is the basic thing behind this, is that now we will have a common national market, because when you have a common tax rate, and it will be leading to a unified market. One more thing what we see is that basically right now what happened in the past is that before GST, actually, I mean, that you were exempted from the tax, or for the raw materials only, but after manufacturing also, a lot of payment is done in the different system that were not exempted under the tax, that were not brought, or not reduced from the tax paid. That's why the industrialists, or the corporation faced a lot of damage, and they had to pay extra money for the after manufacturing process after. And so in GST, there is the raw materials, and the after manufacturing expenses, both are included. So indirectly it is said that it will lead to nearly 15% reduction in the uh, prices, or the manufacturing prices, we can say. And indirectly it is also said that in GST most of the services will be included, which was not before GST. And if a manufacturer is spending in those services, then they can show their expenditure in those services also, which were not included before. And a very little concession, or you can say exemption, is in GST. Before GST, like educational services, and many of the services were exempted, which were not in the tax structure. That's why we had many matlab, events for the evading of the taxes. But now what we see, that is tax evasion will be very much less, and government will have more and more taxation. So now what we see that that the major benefit what will be that the tax barriers, that the interstate tax barriers will be removed, and the country will be whole a market. And the more most big thing what I see that the initially the tax was manufacturing state based, that is the wherever the goods were manufactured, it were taxed there only. Just for example, the most manufacturing states were uh, like Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and the southern states only, Karnataka, Maharashtra, etc. So they had a very very good revenue. But the states which are mostly consumer states like Bihar, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, and UP. UP have 22 crores population, which is approximately 10 times of the Australia's population. So they gained very less because less manufacturing activity. But now we see that in GST, this is destination based tax. That is wherever the consumers are, there only the taxes will be applied. So the poorer states who have less manufacturing activities will be gaining a lot. So the so you might have seen that Bihar was the first non-BJP state to sign for GST. So it will have a very very long and very good impact on their poverty elevation and education sector, because they will have a lot of more revenue to spend. And for this the manufacturing states were protesting. That's why the government agreed to compensate for 5 years for the loss of their revenue. And the states like Tamil Nadu was resisting very high, but in India there is a 50% states must agree to pass such a reform. And what I think and see is that approximately 50% states in India are BJP ruled. So it was not a big problem for the government to pass this bill. And after it's passed in Rajya Sabha also now, and it got the confirmation of presidents also. Now what happened is that a GST council is formed in which every state is a member, and the government have 1/3 of the voting power, and the states comprise of 2/3 of the voting power. And every reform or the every changes they have to make will be required a voting. So the government and state have a saying in this structure, what I meant to say. So the federal system is reserved, and it's not like union dictating the rules to the state. So states also have a say in this. And now I will be explaining some other aspects. So now the basic question arises that how this is going to affect or benefit the industry. So basically, before we can say that is before GST, a company like Flipkart, Amazon, or the other companies had to set up different logistic centers, uh, they prefer the destination and the states which provided them very less tax paying benefits like that, like Andhra Pradesh and the states which has better infrastructure, uh, they were of course chosen by them. So basically what we can see that after they have the uniform structure whole through the India, they will be shifting to different areas like Bihar, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, and the UP, where the labor is cheap. So the employment will be provided there also. This will have a very very good impact in the long run. And the most important thing what I see that before GST, indirectly they had to pay approximately 27% tax. So it was a huge tax while while in other countries they had to pay approximately 18% to 20% tax. So the 7% tax differential was a huge matter for investment. So that's why many of the uh, many of the countries did not choose India as a manufacturing hub. So it will have a very good impact uh, for the program like Make in India. They will prefer India because it will now have a simpler, tax structure, and it will be simple. They have to just see the state tax and the center tax. They can set up industries here. It will not like complex like VAT, octroi tax, sales duty, excise duty, this that lot of taxes were there before that. This will be the a huge tax reform for the indirect taxes in the Indian system. Now, now actually the question arises that will it be effective in the long run? So my answer is basically 160 or more countries have passed GST uh, in their system. It it's basically not called GST, but central VAT or something like that. That is the unified market like that. And initially many of them complained that there was inflation for nearly 2 years. But after that, inflation went down, and price stabilized, and the basic and the most important thing what I want to say that it is estimated that the GST can improve India's GDP by approximately 2%. 2% GDP growth rate is very high. uh, India was the fastest growing major economy in 2015, and up to 2018 it will be the fastest growing major economy by World Bank and the IMF estimates. So actually now this year it was 7.6%. So you can see that if 2% is added, it will be approximately 9.6%, or we can see even double digit growth rate for an economy like India, which is the South India's third largest economy. And by PPP it is the third largest economy all over the world. So double digit growth rate, or 9 or 10% GDP growth rate will be a very very huge change for India. And where it is said that by 2020 India will be the youngest nation, and almost 46%, sorry, 46 million youth will be requiring a job. So India needs to have a good manufacturing environment. And for good manufacturing environment you have to be a good tax structure. Otherwise otherwise why will the companies anyhow choose you? So this will have a very very good impact on the manufacturing sector. Presently manufacturing in India is nearly 17% of the GDP, and by 2025 the government have set a goal to bring it to almost 25% of the GDP. It's a very fun fact, because in the other industrialization, the industrialized nations, for the sectors shifted from agriculture to manufacturing to service sector. But in India we bounce directly from agriculture to service sector. And service sector is the biggest GDP generator. That is it have the most employment and the and best job opportunities in India. So basically for a country like India with so much population and demography, and the demographic must be used, you know uh, such a huge population require a job. So so manufacturing will be the only sector which can help in the employment and in the long term of GDP growth rate. So it will have a very very good impact. That is, the GST will have a very good impact, because India will have a unified market will with virtually no border now. You don't have to have you don't have to stop at the borders, at the state borders 10 times from coming from Tamil Nadu to North India. And it it's also said that in the long run it can even reduce the prices of the commodity by up to 25%. 25% reduction will be a very good, when the purchasing power is increasing day by day of the people, and then 25% reduction, then it will have a very good consumption increase in our country. And there are many challenges also, before the country, because it is said that approximately it takes nearly 3 to 4 years to see the impact of the GST, how the impact is going on your GST, how will be the inflation, and how much time it really takes to bring down the inflation to the normal rates, and stabilization in the economy. And the major challenge what I see is the income, sorry, IT. There is the information technology behind it. That is, GSTN is set up. That is, it will be provided the network for this one. But in rural India, or digital literacy in India is not that much good. So with implementation of the GST, that the government need to work on the digital education also, how to file uh, tax, and something like that, because this will be the only medium to file tax after GST implementation. And a lot of economists are also saying that that's a major challenge will be income tax officers, because income tax officers are right now habituated for the old system, and they need to be trained for GST. So training that much income tax officer will be a huge task, and training is not enough. They must be fluent in this one. And the main other thing is that is robust IT infrastructure is needed in this one, because whole taxation system of a country is going on a single platform. So huge software upgradation, maintenance, and IT infrastructure will be needed in the long run. And what we see that of course a lot of countries, even our rival China, appreciated GST, and so they said that it will be easy for Chinese companies to set up their manufacturing or business in India. So, and even US and other countries appreciated this effort. And yeah, one more thing I forget to say, that GST are of two types all around the world. That is the unified GST, in which you have a unified structure for whole through the country. And there is one more two slab GST, like in Canada. In two slab GST, you have one state GST and one central GST, and one more is there, is the interstate tax collection, which is controlled by the central government only. That is the central GST. So a lot of mutual understanding after the implementation will be also be needed. And the government have decided that it will be implemented from 1st April 2017. And that is the and the company which is which have got the contract for the implementation of the IT infrastructure of GST, also said that yeah, their software is totally ready and now they are ready. So best of luck. Let's see how it happens from the next year. Thank you.